Dr. Peng is his flight was delayed, so he's going to be in a little bit later. But I have a couple of videos so we can start by watching one of them. And with the Hawaiian Patriotic League, we just revived the league. And we have 6 branches right now. And I'm the president of the Waimea branch. And we also have a branch in Hilo. The president of the Hilo branch is Leilani Lindsay Kaapuni. And she's also the president of the central body, and which is currently made up of volunteers, the president of each of the 6 branches that we have. So we'll be sharing a little bit more about that later, but we have in our campaign came in 2017 at the Iolani Palace grounds, August 4th to the 6th. And we're looking forward to encouraging more people to get involved in creating branches of the league and continue our kupuna and the petition.
That's August 4th to the 6th.
4th to the 6th. So we're going to be visiting some of the great sites of some distinguished individuals such as James Salvia, who was the president of the original Hawaiian Patriotic League, as well as Kuleilani Campbell, the president of the women's Kulealoha Aina.
The grave site is Mona.
They're actually spread around in different locations. So we'll start with a video that.
Well, we're really fortunate to have several key resource people. Dr. Lauren Pang, the local guy here. He's an MD, also has a master's of public health, and he's a Princeton graduate, magna cum laude in chemistry. He's top notch, and he was 25 years in the Army Medical Corps, and he was present when some of these DU rounds were tested in Egypt, I think. So he knows a lot. There's also Dr. Mike Reimer, retired nuclear geologist from Kona, that's been advising us, and then retired Army Major Dr. Doug Rocky. He was in charge of the DU cleanup in Iraq after the first Gulf War. And most of his team of people that were involved in that cleanup, they've all died since then. But he is one that he always refers to this, what he calls the Los Alamos memo. Los Alamos is a nuclear laboratory. And they put out a memo basically telling military people to lie about the hazards of depleted uranium to avoid liability, that this weapon is so important in terms of the U.S. being able to use it to destroy tanks and hardened underground areas and everything. It's just being used widely all over, not only Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, in Libya, and Kosovo. It's been used in many countries. Most countries in the world consider the use of DU a weapon of mass destruction because it remains around for so long. It's a war crime. And so they train with it, and they've trained with it here. So we are the victims of a war crime by the U.S. military right here. But we're lucky to have these people who know firsthand, like Doug Rocky. His health is not good now himself. He's putting all of his energy into trying, sounding the alarm to build a worldwide movement to end this and to get it cleaned up, which he says is very difficult to clean up because it's so hard to detect. It's mainly an alpha particle. It's not like after a nuclear blast in Hiroshima where it has gamma rays that are more easily detectable. Alpha particles are very difficult. They're short wavelength. Outside of the body, they're really not a hazard. But the danger is inhaling these DU oxide dust particles. Once inside the body, Lauren Pang said it's the most deadly form of radiation. So that's what we're facing, but we're lucky to have some good people willing to speak out with us on this, but it's going to take a people's movement concerned about the land and future generations to really shut this kind of place down.
It's a different room, guys, so you can sit wherever you want. Just grab a chair. And there's so it's good to see you. I'm glad you guys made it. Oh, I have carpal tunnel.
Can I interrupt you for a little bit? We didn't do a proper introduction from the Hawaiian Center of so.
Well, I was just going to go with hello. Aloha, everyone. welcome to today's presentation, which is the second in a series of presentations on the Pohakaloa training area. Some of you may have been here when last week we had a similar forum, and we invited representatives from the Pohakaloa training area to come down and talk to us about what their plans are for the area. And this presentation is put on by the Hawaiian Civic Club of Hilo, as well as the Ho'olulu Council, Native Hawaiian Council of this college. So it's a joint effort, and we mahalo the community college for allowing us this space to have these meetings. So the purpose of our meetings, or our series, is for us, all of us, to become more knowledgeable about the issues that surround areas like Pohakaloa, which we all have very much affection for. And so because we know that there are activities that are going on, and we have varied opinions in our community about the future of the place and what should be done or not done, our intention for the Civic Club is to make sure that we can arm ourselves with as much information and understand all of the issues, or as much of it as possible. So last month we invited Pohakaloa training area representatives, and some of them have come. We actually had a very good discussion, and so we would welcome you back, because they also want to hear about what we're doing today. And today we're going to listen to three very good speakers that we hope will shed light on some of the same issues, the other side of the coin. And we know that there are at least three sides to every coin, right? So today we're going to have, of course you know, Isaac Clark, and also Ruth Alua, who is on her way. She should be here in a minute. And Dr. Lauren Pang, who is coming from Maui to join us, who has done a lot of his research on depleted uranium. And so we'll have a chance to listen to our speakers, to ask questions, and hopefully we do it. I know that we don't all need to be recorded, but some of us do, using our aloha, our respect for each other, our respect for the speakers. I gotta stand closer because I cannot read it. To listen with an open heart and mind. It's okay to disagree. We know we don't all agree on all of the subject. And to be aloha and to show aloha. And if anything that we've learned over the last several years, it's that we get nowhere yelling and screaming at each other, and we get a lot further when we can actually talk, right? Kahi face to face, and with our open hearts and open minds. So not to say that we intend to sway any opinions. We don't know if we will. It's not necessarily our aim. It's more, as I said, to educate ourselves about all the issues, so that when we make decisions or when we talk about it, we can be better armed with that information. So some of you have these cards, and I'm going to ask Napua to make sure everybody does. Because we found it useful if you write your thoughts down or write your questions down, and we will facilitate that question and answer period at the end, because oftentimes several of us in the room have the same question. We don't interpret or put the questions on the sides, because you know it's a tough question. We don't do that at all. We just really want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask the question. So, and without ado, we'll begin with our pule. We want to do that first. So, do you don't mind when we stand? Just reach out and touch somebody. One more second.
Lord, we appreciate this opportunity to get together and learn more about this very complex issue. We hope that all of those who have traveled from near and far return home safely after we are done with this evening. We also mahalo you for the hands that brought or prepared food for our snacks. And we hope that through this gathering that we will be able to make judgment with, that we'll be able to fairly look at the situation and move forward that way. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. Thank you.
So,
And once you write your question, David C. was in the blue shirt, because he's probably the facilitator. Okay.
yeah, okay, any questions? And we'll get back to Paka, who's started with a little film.
But I can let the group
Let's go first.
continue that. I have a show afterwards.
Did you?
Thank you.
You ready to start? I pressed the channel button and it turned it to the wrong channel and it lost connection. So do you know which channel this came from?
Oh.
I'm not sure which channel. Turn down the sound and press the sound.
And press the wrong button.
Yeah.
Let's see if it warms up. But you gotta make it come on there because it's reflecting that.
When it was working, I like sure this channel, but it's really
We're working on the technical difficulties. We are sharing about the revival of the Hawaii Peak Drug League, and I'd like to introduce Leilani Lindy Kaapuni, who is the president of the central body of the league. Aloha, Lynn, and welcome for attending. She's the Papele Kikena of the Hilo branch as well as the central body. And we will be having our convention at the Iolani Palace grounds August 4 to 6. And our primary effort is geared towards unifying the people. So we don't support or oppose any groups or organizations, but we embrace everyone. And we came at a process to bring the people together because I think a lot of us are going in the same direction but following different trails to try and get to the same destination. Well, I hope we can get more branches organized. So I'm the president of the Waimea branch, and we're encouraging other communities in our area to create their own branches so that people can talk story with people they're comfortable with, people they know and things like that. They don't have to travel long distances to participate in the meeting and things like that. So we have 6 branches. Hilo is one branch. We have one in Waimea. We have 2 on Oahu. And we have one unique branch, which is Pohakaloa Maili Ali'i, a former Hawaiian Civic Club that decided to return their charter to the Civic Club and open up as a branch under the league. And we encourage other branches, other civic clubs to join us if they feel comfortable with, or if individual members want to join the league, that's fine too. And we have, we're open to Hawaiians, which is descendants of Hawaiian Kingdom subjects and descendants of citizens of the kingdom who are non-Kanaka Maoli or foreigners who were naturalized as citizens. Thank you. Sorry, technical difficulties. I can't get it going, I brought my projector just in case. Refresh. We have two branches on Oahu. We have one in Anahola, Hawaii. And we have a branch in Las Vegas, Nevada. And an interesting story is one of the members who is the president of the Las Vegas branch, his name is Kiltani Kipono Marcial, and his effort actually helped to get us started. So he spent a few years researching the Hawaiian Patriotic League, Ta'ahui Hawaii Aloha Island. For those who do not or are not familiar with the name, if you've ever heard of the Ku'e anti-annexation petition, that was carried out by Ta'ahui Hawaii Aloha Island, the Hawaiian Patriotic League. They had a men's group as well as a women's group, and together they formed the league. And they were successful in gathering over 21,269 signatures on a petition opposing the annexation of the Hawaiian Kingdom by the United States. And that petition successfully blocked annexation. So the United States Congress did not adopt the annexation of the Hawaiian Kingdom. So the United States went ahead and adopted a joint resolution in an effort to pretend to annex the Hawaiian Kingdom. As most people know, a joint resolution of the United States Congress is not legitimate beyond the boundaries of the United States. So Hawaii was never annexed. A process that created the state of Hawaii was illegitimate. And the county under the state is also illegitimate. So currently live in a condition that is called military occupation. And under the laws of international laws of occupation, the occupier, which is the United States, must apply the laws of the kingdom rather than introducing their own laws, and which is, I believe, is considered war crimes. And exporting our people into foreign prisons is also a war crime. There's many war crimes going on, and I hope you can all come to Kalapana this Saturday. There's going to be excellent presentations on some recent activities at the international level with the International Commission of Inquiry, where they are doing some fact-finding to see what happened with the Hawaiian Kingdom as far as how the United States is controlled. It's a very interesting time that we live in. So, if anybody has any questions about the Hawaiian Patriotic League, I'd be glad to try and answer. Anybody?
Is Hawaiian Patriotic League attaching to any constitution of the Hawaiian Kingdom?
So we're not looking at any type of government, creating any type of government structure or looking to be the government or anything like that. And it's basically an effort to unify the people. So then once unified, the people can make the choices. So it's not ours to decide. And there's a lot of plans out there that have been made and a lot of claims that have been made. And we're not fighting one or the other, but we hope to unify a sufficient number of people to represent the nation to where the people can decide all of the different plans can be tossed on the table and the people can decide the way forward. And my preference, as a lot of people know, I've worked in the Hawaiian laws a lot, and creating a process according to the law to restore the government. So that is my preferred process. We need to follow our law to restore our government. If we restore it any other way, I don't think it's any different than an occupier coming into office.
Hey,
Yeah. I'm going to run another video now, and it's called An Uncomfortable Truth. some folks, the truth can be a bit uncomfortable. Don't mind my old up here.
We, the voices behind the face of the Hawaiian nation, the Hawaiian race, rise for justice. The day has come for all our people to stand as one. We, the voices behind the face of the Hawaiian nation, the Hawaiian race, rise for justice. The day has come for all our people to stand as one.
These are but a handful of the warriors whose contributions have served to promote the dignity and prosperity of the Hawaiian nation. What is the common motivation that drives our modern day warriors? What is the source of our convictions? Listen carefully, for our cries echo the voices of an earlier era.
Defend our birthright to be free, to give our children liberty.
Look closely, and we may soon discover that we are who we were.
From the days of the enemy ways, power of the people is the people. What the people get along, I know, I know.
August 12, 1998 marks the centennial of the purported annexation of the Hawaiian Islands to the United States. To truly appreciate the significance of this day, we must understand what transpired over 100 years ago. Okeawi hala kalamaku okeala iki kupu kupu. The past is the beacon that will guide us into the future.
On August 12, 1898, during annexation ceremonies at Iolani Palace, two figures stood on a platform before an international gathering. Sanford B. Dole and U.S. Minister Harold Sewell exchanged treaty ratifications annexing the Hawaiian Islands to the United States, or so it appeared. But was it really a treaty of annexation? And did Hawaii really become a territory of the United States? What is a treaty? A treaty, in its simplest terms, is a contract or agreement between two nations. Under international law and practice, a simple three-step process is all that is required for a treaty to be legal and binding. First, a representative from the executive branch of both governments sign and consent to a written agreement. This signed agreement is then submitted to the two respective countries for ratification or approval. In the United States, that approval is based on a 2/3 vote of the Senate. With both countries having consented to the terms and conditions of the agreement, all that remains to consummate the treaty is for both countries to exchange copies of the ratified agreement. That agreement, under international law, is now considered a bona fide and legally binding contract or treaty. In 1849, a treaty of friendship, commerce, and navigation between the United States of America and His Majesty Kamehameha III had been concluded and signed in Washington. Ratification by both countries were exchanged in Honolulu on August 24, 1850, and the treaty was enforced from that date for the term of 10 years and further, until either party gave notice to the other of its intention to terminate. By the late 1800s, the Hawaiian Kingdom enjoyed the distinction of being a member of the family of nations, having entered into treaties with 20 foreign powers. Immediately following a treasonous attempt to overthrow Queen Liliuokalani in January of 1893, enemies of the kingdom, now calling themselves the Provisional Government, departed for Washington, D.C. to sign a treaty of annexation with the United States. Their sole intention was to achieve annexation at any cost. However, before the United States Senate could ratify the proposed treaty, newly elected President Grover Cleveland, confronted with the facts of the overthrow, withdrew the treaty from further consideration and vowed never to allow the Treaty of Annexation to be resubmitted. Having failed at this first attempt to obtain a treaty of annexation with the United States, the Provisional Government on July 4, 1894, declared itself to be the Republic of Hawaii and maintained its opposition to the restoration of the Hawaiian Kingdom government, as called for by President Cleveland. On June 16, 1897, with Grover Cleveland now out of office, a second effort to annex the Hawaiian Islands to the United States was attempted. A treaty was signed in Washington, D.C. between representatives of the self-proclaimed Republic of Hawaii and the newly elected President of the United States, William McKinley. The following day in Washington, Her Majesty Queen Liliuokalani submitted a formal letter of protest to President McKinley, asserting that this proposed treaty of annexation violated the existing Treaty of 1850 between the Hawaiian Kingdom and the United States.
Because said treaty ignores all professions of perpetual amity and good faith made by the United States in former treaties, it is thereby in violation of international law. Therefore, I, Liliuokalani of Hawaii, do hereby call upon the President to withdraw said treaty from further consideration. I ask the Honorable Senate of the United States to decline to ratify that treaty.
Word of what had transpired in Washington soon reached the islands. Anticipating that the U.S. Senate would reconvene in December to consider the second attempt at annexation, an aggressive campaign was initiated, intending to fortify the Queen's second letter of protest. On September 6, 1897, James Kaulia, president of the Hui Aloha Aina, the Hawaiian Patriotic League, gave a stirring speech before thousands at Palace Square in Honolulu. He said agreeing to annexation was like agreeing to being buried alive. He asserted that a mass refusal by the people could prevent annexation.
Let us take up the honorable struggle. Do not be afraid. Be steadfast in aloha for your land and be united in thought. Protest forever the annexation of Hawaii until the very last patriot lives.
A petition to the President, Congress, and people of the United States, otherwise known as the Monster Petition, was read and approved at this rally, asking that no further steps be taken toward the ratification of the treaty. The men and women of the Hui Aloha Aina, through the efforts of many loyal and dedicated Hawaiian subjects, launched a full-scale petition drive that lasted approximately 2 months. They went from island to island, from shore to shore, leaving no stone unturned in their efforts to document opposition to the proposed treaty. The petition was printed in both English and Hawaiian.
We, the undersigned,
Native Hawaiian subjects and residents who are members of the Hawaiian Patriotic League of the Hawaiian Islands and other citizens who are in sympathy with the League earnestly protest against the annexation of the Hawaiian Islands to the United States of America in any form or shape. By November of 1897, they had successfully gathered the signatures and support of over 21,000 patriots. In a joint effort, the Hui Kalai'aina also gathered through their petition drive nearly 17,000 signatures. Together, there were over 38,000 signatures, representing 95% of the Native Hawaiian population. James Kaulia, David Kalou, John Richardson, and William Auld traveled to Washington to deliver the petitions to the United States Senate. In December, while they watched from the gallery, the text of the monster petition was read on the floor of the Senate, and the signature petitions were formally accepted. As a result of these protests from the Queen and her people, the United States Senate failed to obtain the required two-thirds vote as mandated by the U.S. Constitution to ratify a treaty. By March of 1898, the Treaty of Annexation was dead. But expansionists in the United States Congress, led by Senator Morgan, would not let the dream of annexation die. Within days, they devised a plan to bypass the requirements of their own constitution in an effort to annex Hawaii.
The Hawaii Annexation Treaty lags in the Senate. The number of votes needed will not come forth. The advocates of the scheme are now preparing to resort to a joint resolution, which may be put through by a simple majority in each House of Congress. In other words, if Congress should strictly obey the Constitution, annexation could not take place.
In March of 1898, they introduced Joint Resolution number 55 to provide for annexing the Hawaiian Islands to the United States. The joint resolution, otherwise known as the Newlands Resolution, was then passed by a simple majority in each House of Congress and signed by President McKinley on July 7, 1898. This was the document presented by U.S. Minister Harold Sewell to Sanford Dole at the annexation ceremony in August of 1898. Dole responded, "I now yield up to you, representing the government of the United States, the sovereignty and the public property of the Hawaiian Islands." For the past 100 years, it was assumed that Joint Resolution 55 possessed the power and effect of a treaty. However, according to international law and practice, it did not. Moreover, under U.S. constitutional law, a joint resolution does not have the power to extend beyond the borders of the United States. Without a treaty of annexation, American sovereignty cannot exist in these islands. Nothing has legally transpired which could affect the lawful existence of the Hawaiian Kingdom and its subjects. There was no annexation.
Anything I present is freely open to be challenged by anyone who doesn't agree with it. So, this research was done by legal professionals, and Dr. Keanu Sai has met with Justice Advocate General's representatives on Oahu, and they all know about the situation, and so we're looking for a solution to the condition of the military occupation of the island. And under international law, the first step would be for the United States occupier to begin applying Hawaiian Kingdom law. And that would include a transition process from operating under the currently unlawful laws being applied to us to the implementation of Hawaiian Kingdom law. Anybody have any questions about the video, what you just saw?
I think, if you don't mind, Uncle, we'll wait till the end
Okay.
to ask questions. That way we can make sure we give everybody time to present.
We also have Loki here and Dr. Peng. Would anyone of you want to speak now?
So, yeah, thank you. So are you finished with your part of it?
I'm going to come back later.
Okay, so Ruth, we'll ask you to come up front.
Also, Dr. Pang is here. Would you like to come up front too? Then we'll get started with the PTA part of our presentation.
It's not disconnection,
Old dinosaur computer. It was very sharp and sticky. I want to mahalo Leilani for my beautiful name.
It's his
Today is my I couldn't think of a better thing to get for my birthday. Hello everyone. Somewhere between 30 and 90.
I'll go ahead and start to share. And so, aloha mai kako. Aloha to all of the kama'aina of this beautiful land. Mahalo for having me here and for the abundance of this place and for all of you for being present today. It's an honor. So I actually come from the district of Kona. That's where my ancestral roots tie me to just at least one place that I most recently identified to. My family is the Ho'omanawanui. We come from South Kona, but now we're kind of scattered all throughout. And my grandfather's lineage is the Ho'opili, which binds me to the island of Maui. I'm going to talk story first, because I got to be honest, I didn't prepare anything. Because there's so many great minds in this room, like Uncle Papa and Dr. Lauren Pang and Uncle Jim Albertini, Auntie Leilani, Auntie Noi Noi. There's a wealth of knowledge, of encyclopedias, of lifetimes, of ancestral ways that are sitting in this room. And so with acknowledging that, I want to mahalo all of the kupuna in this room who have really laid the groundwork for me and taught me so much and still teach me so much about how to be compassionate and how to do this work in protecting our aina, our bai, and our kai in a good way, in the best way possible. And of course, Auntie Tammy here as well. Mahalo to all of you for all you have done. I'm so indebted to all of the aloha, the endless aloha that you have for our lahui, for our aina, for our bai, for our kai. It's a true honor to be able to sit on this panel with you folks and to share and to be able to look in these faces, these friendly faces that I love and admire. So academically, I'm trained. I went to school. I got my degree. I have my bachelor's degree in anthropology. I have my master's degree in archaeology. Specifically, I try and do archaeology just in my district because that's where I know best, and that's where I feel like my kuleana pulls me to, is when I do the hands-on work, is to do work in the Kona region. Right now, I'm an organic farmer. So I farm. I like to grow food for people. I like to feed people good food that's affordable, that's free, that takes care of their health and their bodies and their minds. I'm a kia'i loco. I'm a fish pond guardian. We're returning, we're rising, and I'm a kia'i loco at Kaloko Fish Pond. So in my work, I collaborate with the National Park Service in the work that I do, and in the community activism and the protecting work that I do. I'm also a part of the Mauna Kea Ohana, protecting Mauna Awa Kea, protect Pohakaloa, to demilitarize our homelands, our sacred lands, these sacred places. There's so many movements that I can talk about, but I will, because everybody here has their own story, and I want to learn about that later as well. But being here today, I was thinking, like, what can I actually offer this room? Like, I'm young, I'm still learning. I'm trying my best to move myself along and to take what I can from the presentations that I hear regarding many things, and one of those things is Pohakaloa. So just even, see, what am I gonna say? Just saying the name Pohakaloa makes me want to cry. And whenever I present about Pohakaloa, I wear black. And the reason that I wear black is because I'm in a state of mourning for our Aina, which is being attacked right now by the US military. And one of the perspectives that I offer, and I'm going to say this now, I'm not here to convince you, I am not here to debate with you. I am here to talk from my na'au and speak my truth, and it is for you to hear, it is for you to receive if you want to, and if you don't, that's fine. But I am definitely not here to debate. So for 2 years of my life, Havani and I, we had the privilege of living in Waikiki. And Waikiki is such a beautiful aina. And if you don't know where that is, it's right next to Pohakaloa. It's the closest residence to the military base right now. It's about 5 miles away. There's a handful of individuals who live there, who are able to live there. This aina is so rich, and this is where I learned to farm, and where I learned about the spirit keepers of the space, and when I learned about the destruction that is happening in our neighboring lands. And to paint you a picture, where I lived in Waikiki, I got to live on the farm that I worked at, and it's just endless fields of pastures that are golden in the sunset, and you see the ancestors dance in the sky, the most amazing cloud formations that I've ever seen in my life. I woke up to Mauna Kea, I fell asleep to Mauna Kea, surrounded by Mauna Loa, Hualalai, Haleakala. And being there, we wake up in the morning, we all do this, we all wake up and we have our routines of things that we do, of food that we eat, of coffee that we drink. And for me, while living there, during the live fire trainings, and even not even so, it was very common for me living in here in this area where I was organic farming, taking care of animals and plants, to wake up to the sounds of bombs falling, detonating on our aina, to see the pictures on our walls moving because they're bombing Pohakaloa, to wake up and to just, it's not even just waking up and falling asleep to these sounds. I would go to sleep at 8, 9, and then I would wake up at 10:30, 11, and the military is bombing Pohakaloa, and that feeling, many people know the sound of hearing these things. And once I started to speak out about it and share about it on my Facebook, I started to learn that, hey, I'm not the only one who is concerned about what is happening at Pohakaloa. There are people in Volcano, in Paulilo, in Kona, in Waipoloa, in Waimea, all around the island that are being affected by what is happening at Pohakaloa, even though they do not reside within 5 miles of Pohakaloa. But they are still feeling the vibrations of not only the bombs dropping, but the intentions that are being laid, the destruction that is vibrating outward to the rest of our homes. And so living here in Waikiki, it's not only hearing the bombs falling and dropping, but it's that emotion. Like just sitting here, I'm starting to shake thinking about it because we don't live there anymore and we moved away. And I love Waikiki and I love Pohakaloa, but being so close to the destruction and the chaos that is happening just tears me apart into pieces. And hearing the jets that continuously fly by, and which has increased in my perspective in the 2 years that I've lived in Waikiki. In the past just 4 to 6 months, there's been intensification of the jets that are flying, the helicopters that are flying. They fly close to the homes, they fly over the homes, they spook the animals. There is nothing normal, in my perspective, about bombing aina, about hurting Papahanaumoku, about damaging what gives you life. And so being so close in Waikiki, one of the things that I'm going to mention, but I'm not going to go into depth about, is Havani and her health. And we're young, we're 28, we eat healthy, I grow the food that we eat. I help slaughter or catch the things, the meat that we consume. We play a very crucial role in tending to our own bodies, but she has been sick since we moved in. She had within 2 months of living in Waikiki, she had gotten very sick. And then through the past 2 years of living there, her sicknesses, we don't know what it's due to, but it's living in Waikiki were activated. And things started to happen to her body, which is why we had to leave Waikiki, is because we weren't sure what was in the area, whether it be physical or spiritual, which is probably a combination of both that was damaging her and damaging me as well. But being in that area and seeing and raising the animals and knowing that they never ever got used to the sounds of the bombs, like if you raise animals or if you work with animals or if you're a fisher or a hunter, you know when animals get scared. And the animals always got scared at the farm. They got skittish, like safety on a farm. You cannot work with animals when you're bombing the aina because they are so skittish. They don't know what's happening. They're feeling those vibrations. They're hearing these sounds that are happening. But at the farm that I worked at, because I was the manager, I had to subconsciously initiate these rules for our staff's safety on the land. And as a cultural practitioner, which is what people know us by, is cleansing the aina, cleansing the land of what was being sent across to the spirit realm, who right now, in what I have come to understand, are trying their best to help us. They're trying to keep the damage that is being done at Pohakaloa in a bubble, so that we in the human realm are not affected by it, and that we can be protected. So they're asking for our help. They're not asking for us to be violent. They're not asking us to put our lives on the line, but they're definitely reaching out and asking for our help, to show up, to stand up, to speak up for Pohakaloa. And so in talking with different people, it's really moving for me because I gotta admit, to see the US military folks in here right now in your uniforms, I don't even know how I feel about that, because when I speak up about the demilitarization of Hawaii, I feel like you're a danger to me. I feel like the agency and the group that you represent is a threat to my life and my very being and the next 7 generations and the 7 generations after that to come. So just you being here is making my heart beat right now. It's racing. And I'm not meaning that in a bad way to attack you, and I don't want you to feel attacked, but I want you to know that that is not only a feeling that I have, that is a feeling that many of our people, Hawaiian and non-Hawaiian, have towards the military's presence and expansion in Hawaii. We were never asked, we never consented to you folks being here, and you folks continue to illegally occupy and be present and expand, have the audacity to expand. And I'm not speaking to any individual, but I'm just speaking of this, and I don't want anybody to take this personal, because what I'm sharing is it's coming from a place of love for the land and of love for you, and of love for what you do not know that you are playing with right now, and of the damages that would unfold if you do not stop. So for living in Waikiki for 2 years and hearing the bombs drop and everything happening, I felt so helpless, and I'm not the only one, because what do you do to deoccupy it? Lives were lost in deoccupying Ko'olawe, to getting that to stop, for getting the bombing to stop. And so a lot of our people are feeling helpless. And so we're moving together and we're swaying and we're being a support system, waving signs, talking about what we don't like and what we want to see. And a big part of that involves demilitarizing Pohakaloa. And it doesn't just start and end with Pohakaloa. It's all of our aina throughout Hawaii. It is not a place that you folks are welcome to bomb and to hurt, because that is our ancestral mother. Literally, we are genealogically bound to this aina that you are bombing, that you are playing on, that you are poisoning, that you are destroying. And so, I'm going back to this 2 years. I can't believe I lived there for 2 years and listened to this, and nobody else in Waikiki is talking about this. It's become normal in a sense. And people are also in a place of fear of not being able to speak out against the military, and I don't blame them. But one thing I have to say is I am not afraid. I'm not afraid, and I'm not easily scared. when it comes to protecting what gives me life, when it comes to protecting my family, when it comes to protecting our aina, our bai, and our kai. So after 2 years and many years of people in this room who have heard these bombs drop, and the more we talk about it, the more I realize, hey, like, people are talking about this happening in Ka'u, like, all of this military activity that has been going on, and I'm new here. You know, even though I'm born here, I'm new to this subject and learning about it. So I've heard the bombs drop, I felt the bombs drop. And it wasn't actually until right before we were getting ready to move out of Waikiki that I saw the bombs drop. Who in this room has seen the bombs drop on Pohakaloa? I don't know what you folks felt like the first time that happened, but nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced when I saw the bombs drop. And it wasn't just one bomb, it was multiple bombs. There were multiple camps set up throughout Pohakaloa, and I was driving by, and all that I started to hear was boom, and the car started to shake. And there were multiple bombs being fired from multiple camps on our pool. You know, it's not only bad that this is between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, you know, a sacred passageway for the ancestors, a heart of our island, but that intentionally firing these bombs at our pool. You know, and I didn't even know about this. And so it was a shock. It was not only a shock of seeing it, but it was a shock of knowing that this is actually happening and this is okay. In what realm is it okay to bomb the Aina, but then to bomb our pool? When was that okay? Like, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows when that was okay, but if the US military, if you folks could tell me when it became okay for you guys to do that, you know, I want to know. Because what I'm hearing is you guys have a deep-seated past that isn't Pono. And in the end, Pono will prevail. So be a part of the process of bringing Pono, of restoring balance, of doing the right thing for the Aina. And so I stand and I call for the demilitarization of Pohakaloa and for all ancestral and sacred places throughout Pohawai'i Aina and throughout the Honua. Because the more that I speak out, the more that I learn that the U.S. military is continuously expanding and illegally occupying not only Hawaii, but other areas throughout the world. And so I'm going to end, but one thing I'm going to share when I end is it's so hard for me to, I spend most of my time, honestly, on the land. Like I just came from working on a farm, and I have dirt in my fingers and in the crevices of my neck. And I haven't showered, and so it's very different for me to be in a room and to try and talk to people where I'm usually surrounded by birds, animals, and plants than human beings on a single day. And that's my beautiful life. And so I'm going to read a Facebook post that I wrote, and this post that I wrote carries the energy and of the bombs dropping on Pohakaloa when I heard it. It carries the emotions of what I felt when I had saw the bombs drop on Pohakaloa and felt absolutely helpless, not knowing what I could do. Trembling, shattered, weak. Driving past Pohakaloa, the car shook, and as I looked out the window, there they were, the U.S. military. Multiple setups along the joining of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, heavy artillery firing multiple bombs at our Mauna. I barely stopped the car, I barely made it out. Everything went blank, silence, shock, disbelief. This feeling, that feeling I felt, it felt like a loved one passed who was taken from this world too soon, torn from my arms, ripped from this world. It was a feeling of seeing Pohakaloa dying before my eyes, my elder, my dearest elder. As I approached the roadside, I felt my knees weaken, my heart, it shattered just like our homelands into 1,000 pieces over and over again. Every bomb that exploded on our lands exploded within me. I felt that pain within my womb, I felt that violence upon every cell of my body, I couldn't move. As I watched more bombs fired, fires started, military invaders scrambled around. The cars just drove by as the bombs exploded. People just drove by. My heart whispered, do not forget Pohakaloa. The ancestors, they came with me, they held me in that moment. I fell to my knees, I lifted my hands, and I said the name, Pohakaloa. Our home is not a ground that should be used to train to kill, to cause violence, cloaked by lies that seek to further conquer, harm, and steal. This is to you, the U.S. military, who prances around our homelands that we owe you and you own us. It is true, our lands and people are in danger, not from those you claim to protect us from, but from you, the U.S. military, who justify violence with violence, who justify pain with peace, who justify killing for humanity. We never welcomed you in our homeland. Remember, you stole all that you possess. It's time for you to go. The time was not today, it will be tomorrow. It was long ago. I am coming. We are coming. If you are reading this message now, it is infused with the bombs that are being fired at our sacred homelands, upon our sacred earth, upon Pohakaloa right now. These words, my words, are being written as tears fall from my eyes, my gut churns and heart aches. Do not be afraid to speak your truth. You are not alone. I stand with you. Stand, speak, rise. Do not fear, for in the end, we will return to the realm of Wakea as stars of the ancestors. You will again return to the stars. Mahalo for inviting me and for hosting. And I don't have answers, but I know that trying to solve violence with more violence and trying to drop bombs and the potential to stop bombs from dropping is not the answer. And so that is why I stand to demilitarize Pohakaloa, protect our mother.
Thanks for sharing and Colin Life for never having to come up and out of
Again, I'm glad to be here. I come from Maui, 4th generation. My ancestors came to work the sugarcane fields. Right off the bat, I can tell you I'm retired Army Medical Corps. I never made it too far because the general said, why don't you come back and go to war college? And at that time, I was loaned to the World Health Organization. I said, well, I think I should finish up here, and these things are more important to me. He said, well, then you won't be promoted, and you'll be kicked out in 2 years. And so be it. But, you know, hold grudges. But I'm always shocked. Come to these meetings and meet people I never met before, and I wonder, where did these people come from? Speak so well, seem to be on track, and here I am. Here I am wandering around, trying to get my thoughts together and just forever surprised. Let me just tell you something I wasn't prepared to say, how I'm forever surprised. People getting sick all the time, and we kind of don't know where it's from. I'm more than happy to say I don't know where it's from either, but it's certainly new. And they always talk about the canary in the coal mine. In other words, we work with a nursery in Maui, and my wife and the nursery guy, that guy's older than me, he's 88. He puts out plants, certain plants, and when the plants die, he knows there's stuff in the air, there's no question. My wife's a PhD, she knows it. The guy graduated from Berkeley, he knows. But when people start getting sick, I say, is something going on? We tend to believe something is going on. And for me, the canary in the coal mine here on the Big Island was an invasive species, the prawns. I was working fishing game, 1965, illegally, I was underage. And we brought in the prawn, the Malaysian prawn, one of the most invasive species ever to be brought in the Hawaiian Islands, but we didn't know. And you don't realize what's going on underwater, that it's wiping out the opai, the iiwai, the old, everything. And we brought it in for aquaculture, and it escaped and infested all the streams. Meanwhile, it was really good to eat. And there was a proposal, why don't we just eat our way out of the invasive species? So when we get prawns, or get really prawns, I'm trying to do my part. When we get the strawberry guava, it makes the most wonderful jam in the world, but why can't we just cut it down and harvest it? So I talked to DLNR. Shall we just go after the invasive species, cut loose, like the roy and all that? He said that actually, if you're going to have a use for it, can you please manage it? Okay, maybe we could manage it. So I had spear prawns on the Hamakua coast ever since, I don't know, 20 years or so. And they're gone now. In the last 4 months, they're gone. And I know they're gone. Because I go at night and I look and look and look. And about 4 months ago, they disappeared. And so I know my spots, and they're all gone. And so I checked with the prawn guys. Yeah, they're gone. They said, they're gone. And that's interesting. Our invasive species is wiped out by something. Nobody cried for the prawn, but it's a marker. Something is coming out here. What's coming up? Well, all I can say is, I'm not sure what it is, and you guys on Big Island we guys on the Big Island don't use a lot of chemicals. The chemicals are used to clear the farmlands above, because I prawn down below. And I'll be damned if the chemicals have made the prawns go away, but nobody seems to care because they were invasive to begin with. But do you think all the native species are coming back when the chemicals start? Do you think the stuff flowing into the ocean, the ocean's ever going to be the same? So things change, it's quite subtle, it's hard to know what's going on. But meanwhile, by the time you figure it out, by the time you go to court to say, I think it's this, it's too late. It's too late. So here's a different aspect that we've been looking at for years. Okay, if you could advance. I'm going to stand here and point here. You can kind of look there. Oh, just go back 1 second. So I am retired medical corps, 24 years. Walter Reed Institute of Research, 20 years with the World Health Organization, looking at health issues in tropical countries. And then I got best doctors since 2007. Next. Okay, I was asked to talk about depleted uranium. Depleted uranium. That's one of the weaponries being used at Pohakaloa. And it's a little bit new to people, but if you kind of study it and understand what's going on, it's pretty worrisome. All right, so the first time I saw depleted uranium used was 1982. We were in Egypt. Remember, I was in the medical corps. And they said, hey, watch this. And we demonstrated for Sadat, but he got assassinated. So we demonstrated for his replacement, hey, watch what we can do. And we blew up all the tanks. We put these dummy tanks up. People said, wow, what kind of explosion is that? That's no explosion. That's a metal slug, a simple metal slug. When fired at high velocity, hits like flint on steel, but more than flint on steel. Just has a life of its own and blows up a tank. Wow, that was like something. Okay, so how did we get depleted uranium? First of all, you mine uranium. Okay, it's a mineral, I mean it's an element, and we dig out the uranium. Then for reactors, for peaceful purposes, not for nuclear explosions, we centrifuge it. We separate it. So centrifuge just means put the heavy stuff in one place, the light stuff in the other place. Why? You mean some uranium's heavy, some is light? Yeah. They've got different isotopes. It's a heavy stuff and light stuff. I can't even remember which one is which. But one of them, I guess the light or the heavy, don't quote me, is so hot that it's not nuclear bombed, it makes your reactor. When you know, like Fukushima, the reactors you need enrich uranium. Okay? The other one is not so hot. It's dangerous enough to breathe, but it's not good enough for reactor. So that's depleted. And we pile it up. Nobody really know what to do with it. We put it within, what do you call it, fences and not high security, barbed wire, because somebody might get this and blow it up to make dirty bomb, contaminated areas that we shouldn't breathe. But it just sits around there, and someday we were supposed to put it back in the ground where this stuff came from. Next. So we'll talk about the depleted uranium. Then we discovered just depleted uranium itself. It emits, there's different kinds of radiation, alpha, beta, gamma, neutrons. But this uranium, or depleted uranium, either one, emits alpha particles. Alpha particles are huge, and they can pack one wallop. So, is that good or bad? Well, an alpha particle is so big, it'll be blocked by a piece of paper. You cannot penetrate it. Too much cross-section. It's like an elephant, which is huge, running into a bamboo forest. The elephant's pretty powerful, but it'll be blocked by that bamboo forest. Just like the paper. It's also blocked by 3 inches of air. It's blocked by dead skin. Like, if I got all this alpha particle outside, it would hit my skin, and the skin would block it. Phew. Something magic about skin. We'll talk about that later. The other kind of radiations, the beta particles, a little smaller, not such a wallop, but it'll pierce paper. Gamma goes all the way into, what's that, concrete? And then there's some cosmic rays coming in from the space all the time, piercing everything, including the air. But the alpha is the big one. But it's blocked. Thank goodness. Next. So, pretend this is depleted uranium. You made a big ball of it. That's safe for him in this form. The alpha is blocked by his skin and 3 inches of air, the alpha radiation. And it's also blocked by itself. So if this was a solid ball of depleted uranium, the inside depleted uranium is blocked by the outside coat. Okay? But the minute you inhale it, it's not blocked by the skin, it's in your lung. Now you got problems. It went into your body, and in your body, alpha particles, whether it's depleted uranium or strontium-90 or whatever, alpha particles are the most dangerous form of radiation of all. Why is that? Well, outside the skin will block it, but inside the wallop, this mass is so big that when it hits your DNA, you're asking for trouble. You hit the DNA so hard, you cause mutations. Mutations mean two things in the medical world: birth defects or cancers. Also, it has been shown that birth defects, you may have hit a baby. Well, let's just say, I'll just use me as an example. If my sperm got hit by an alpha particle, one way or the other, and caused mutation in the sperm, you have a mutation. Then I have a kid, and the kid picks up the mutation, and you get birth defects or cancer in the kid. But it's in his genes now. And that kid, this is shown in mice, so this is not make-believe. That kid never saw the alpha particles, but you mutated his genes. He had babies, and it's passed on and on and on. And people said, oh, you mean you cause mutations which pass on and on and on in the germ cells? Absolutely. That's the legacy why DU is considered weapon of mass destruction. When you unleashed it onto the Balkans, when you unleashed it in the Mideast, the babies having babies, although the babies, the next line is never contaminated, if they cleaned it up, it's in their genes. Wow, gee, Dr. Pang, that's heavy. That's not. Every time we see a patient with cancer, we say, does it run in your family? Either the maternal line or the paternal line? Well, yeah, because the mutations are tracking down. Once you mutate the genes, the germ cells, good luck. Good luck with your legacy on your offspring. That's all we can say. Oh, what? How can we handle this, but we can't handle that, breathing it in the body? Because we were never meant to. In the sunlight can mutate. Sunlight can mutate DNA. But our skin has no DNA. Our skin has no DNA. It's dead skin. It can block plenty radiation. And the poor ancestors of us who didn't have that kind of dead skin, they died off. Frogs, they don't have that dead skin. When they get radiated, they die. Frogs die. Okay? That's why we, because of evolution, have been blessed with dead skin that can block radiation. We were never meant to inhale radiation. Because once in the lung, there's nothing to block the radiation. Okay, next. Now, let's go back to our scenario here. Let me just, don't try to read this. There's smoking cigarettes. A guy smokes the cigarette, and then you see the ashes. Remember that. The tobacco, you didn't light it up yet. This is the problem of tobacco. Lit cigarettes, the carcinogens of the burn product. And then the ashes, the remnants. Okay. That's just like DU. Here's all your weaponry. They put it in just slugs of metal. The metal can be this big or this big. This thing will hit with no explosion, pierce and ignite and blow up. So that itself is not dangerous. It's outside your body. The minute it blows up, it's almost like smoking. It's inhalable, okay? And then after the explosion occurs, here's all the remnants of the leftover pieces. Okay. Now you're going to tell me that, all right, we're gonna look in these DU areas. I don't care if it's Pohakaloa. I didn't mean it that way. It might be Pohakaloa, might be the Balkans, might be the Mideast. And you say, well, we go out there, everything's safe. It's like saying, hey, I saw some ashes. So what, smoking's safe? Because the ashes are safe? Or if you study this, just the metal, well, DU is safe, I don't have a problem with that. That sounds good. That's like saying, the tobacco part is safe. Yeah, I agree. But the minute you burn it and inhale it, that's problems. So I tell you, this last 10 years, all I got from Washington was this kind of runaround stuff. Well, what DU is safe, yes, I agree. Can you not blow it up so that we inhale it? Well, look at the remnants. We think that's safe. I agree. That's the marker. That's like ashes. Ashes are safe, but it meant you burned them. You blew it up. Okay. Now, next. See, I don't even read this part. We are looking at the ashes. We are looking for the ashes in Pohakaloa. That means if we see this remnants, you blew some up. Typically, when you blow up DU, 50% is aerosolized and 50% is on the ground. So we just kind of did a sample, say, look, you got 2 tons on the ground, I guess 2 tons went up in fumes, okay? Furthermore, these remnants, if you repeatedly bomb it with conventional bombs, like Ruth was talking about, you blow it up even more. So if they promise to say, we will never use DU again, are you bombing the remnants? Because that creates the same fumes. So way back when, 12 years ago, General Lee, speaking on behalf of the military, he said, well, first he said, well, we never used it. Then he said, yes, you did. Then he said, yes, oh yeah, we did use some. But we're careful not to bomb where we used it. I said, how do you know that? Because you don't kind of know where it went. And when he put up his map, he had where the DU was, the X, and where he was bombing. I said, wait, can you put the map up? Because the bombing area actually overlaps the DU map. I mean, maybe it was a typo or something. And then, Fred Hemmings interrupted and said, are you calling General Lee a liar? I didn't raise the word liar. Fred Hemmings did. But you see how we've been in this thing a long time. So if you continue to bomb the remnants, you just generate more dust. But there's something very magic, deadly magic, about DU dust when you burn it. Next. Okay, burning of DU dust. Oh, DU is a metal. You can make it like dust. You can inhale the dust. Okay. When you make it small particles, it comes into your body. You inhale it. Okay. And it emits alpha radiation, like we said, the most damaging form of radiation internally. There's nothing to protect you inside. Now, when you breathe this and you burn DU, it's not metal dust. It's called DU oxides. It's a new chemical, like DU with 2 oxygens, 4 oxygens, 6 oxygens, 8 oxygens. And the chemists call this, they have a slang for an oxide. It's called a ceramic. Ceramics are not soluble. So you converted the metal into a glass, a ceramic, just by burning. That's the definition of burning, turning into an oxide. The oxide is not soluble, and it stays in your body decades. If I were to take the straight metal and make a little powdery dust and give it to somebody to inhale, that's water soluble, water blood soluble. And you end up peeing it out in about 6 weeks. But once it's in the oxide form, the explosion burning, it's the insoluble form, and it stays in your body several decades. Now, where is it going in the body? I don't know, but it's in your body, radiating alpha particles. I used to think it was just, this is supposed to be like this. It was in your lung. That's not the blood circulation. Why would I show you blood circulation? Water-soluble blood, urine, water-soluble. This is where water-insoluble chemicals go in your body. It's called the lymphatics. This is not blood, this is lymphatics. Lymphatics go everywhere. It's a remnant circulatory system. There's certainly lymphatics in your lung. And from the lung, they can go everywhere, including your sex cells, okay? Including your kidney. It flows, it ebbs and flows, not by a pump, but just by daily motion. So that's why people who are exposed to DU are disseminating in their body for decades rather than weeks. Well, what else could it do besides knocking out those mutations? It's a radiation, it's a burn. It can just burn you. And when you get enough of it and you start burning the lymphatics, well, that's when you get these weird syndromes where people just don't function anymore. Doug Rocky, retired military, he was the radiation officer, he wrote the rules. He and his team are dying. They went to clean up the DUs. He's not dying of mutations or cancer yet. He's dying of the internal burning. And it burns, watch, it's the lung, it burns everywhere it goes. Continues to emit. How long is it radioactive for? 4.5 billion years. Okay? Wow, it's kind of a lot. Next, this is a book. This is the European Council. Their position is quite aligned with ours, although the US military, but this is European, see? This is the tracking of the alpha particles, next. And in this book, we won't dwell on this, but this is this kind of interesting thing. This is the response, bad things happen, and this is the dose of DU. And this is the big contentious way, because people said, hey look, when you get less DU, pretty soon there's no problem. You just extrapolate the line back. But these guys say, wait a minute, when you get down real low, it picks up again. Well, I thought the less you got, the better. Like, the less you got, the less problems. Less dose, less problems. What's that? Nonetheless, they see that. So when the military tells you, hey, we got this low dose, don't worry about it. It's got to be lower than this. You take them doses down low enough, you can get problems. Why is this? This is called Berlakov's curve. This Russian guy saw this in animals. It's because all those mutations that you shouldn't have, you kicked in a repair system when you killed the cell and it didn't pass on to cancer. When you come so low, you don't kick in the repair system. You got problems. Kind of interesting. So it's not so straightforward as they think. Next. Okay. This is just proof, you don't have to read this. This is proof that the alpha particles in the body can pass on. They infected male rats. The females were never infected. The babies had, the Japanese showed cancer. These other guys showed birth defects. And their progeny had it. Well, of course, it's in their genes already. Next. This is the Gulf War syndrome. Gulf War syndrome, they claim was bogus. They didn't want to pay the soldiers with the syndrome. Eric Shinseki said, I'm going to look at this. He called in all the universities, and they decided, rather than say, well, this one had a headache, well, she had kidney problems, he had lung problems, pool it as a syndrome. And when they did that, there was an excess of illness, 300,000-fold. 300,000, went from 0 to 300,000. Then they said, what do you think caused the Gulf War syndrome? And they looked at DU, because DU was used in the Mideast. Next. And this is what they said. In fact, they came here to present to us in Waimea, yeah? This guy said, okay, everything you say, Dr. Pang, so far is correct, but we can prove that it's safe. Really? Yep. He said that we had in the Gulf War wars friendly fire. We shot ourselves by mistake. Some guys got metal shrapnel of DU, metal. We don't look at those guys because they peed up and out. They keep producing it, but they pee it up. Some guys got hit and they inhaled the stuff, but no metal shrapnel. So we got those guys who inhaled the stuff, who got your inhaled DU, Dr. Pang. Yes, and what? And we followed them, 33 people, or 32 people, for 10 years, and nothing was wrong. Followed these guys 10 years and nothing was wrong? I said, yeah. I said, well, first of all, if you follow people for 10 years, 33 of them, something is wrong. You don't mean nothing, they have nothing. He goes, well, yeah, that's what I meant. We had a control group of age, gender matched, and we followed them. And so, of course, when some guys had a headache, the other guys had a headache too. Well, first of all, your control group, what were they? Age-matched people in the US who never saw DU? No, they were actually people in theater. In theater, that means in the Mideast. These guys, everyone's breathing DU, so your controls are contaminated, number one. Number two, it was actually published in a report they said that when they looked at these guys, when you said nothing wrong, there were tumors in the DU group, wasn't there? Yes. Malignant and benign, yes. And they called the principal military doctor. I think I knew him. And they said, why didn't you report the tumors? And he said, I didn't believe it was a result of exposure. This was put in tongue-in-cheek. It's actually printed. What are you guys doing? You're ignoring the tumors, malignant and benign. So every time they come here and tell you, well, we got proof, you know, the kind that Pang likes, that nothing's bad. You guys didn't even report what was there. Next. Okay, here's our little contribution. We did this. We went up with a Geiger counter, and you can count alpha particles. It's a $40 thing, very accurate, made in Germany. And so we went to Kona, far from Pohakaloa, and we counted 20,000 minutes. It gives you count per minute. And you know, here's the count per minute, you know, 16. And there were some low ones and some high ones. And then we took it up to, I didn't go, but they went up to the Girl Scout camp where we were living. And they counted for, I think, 360 minutes, not 20,000. Went for 6 hours. And it, advance it. Yeah, again, one more time. We began to see high counts, like in the 50 or 60 range. And I said, well, what's that? Because we didn't see that we did not see that down in Kona. And so this is where we were stuck. We said, wait, something's odd up there. Now, at that time, I looked at there's cosmic rays when you go up in elevation, and the military now says it's cosmic rays, but I read 2 different reports, one by Stanford who say that I don't think that's cosmic rays. Another one says your elevation, it could be cosmic rays. Nonetheless, next slide. Next. This is, oh no, just come back a little bit. This is one of our little problems again. First problem, the military. General Lee said, don't worry about DU, it's heavier than air. It's not going to go in the air. When Camp Falcon blew up in the Mideast, we blew up our own DU arsenal by mistake. A pulse was seen in England in like 9 weeks. The stuff goes up. Mount Pinatubo erupts. A lot of that stuff's heavier than air. The stuff goes around and around the earth. Okay. Aluminum is heavier than air. It goes up. It goes up. It crosses the Atlantic Pacific. Mercury vapors. Mercury's heavier than air. We breathe the vapors. So we asked generally, you either support that or don't say that. So they don't say that, but they used to. Sometimes when I'm not there, they'll say it. Well, don't worry about it. It's heavier than air. Next. When we saw those spikes, I showed you, PTA, those spikes way out in left field, what did the government say? Well, Dr. Penn, you saw some spikes, 72 counts per minute. You saw 5 of them. Yeah, I did. First, they challenged the equipment. Don't challenge German equipment, they'll sue you. The Germans know what they're doing. Okay? So they didn't do that anymore. They said, Dr. Penn, do you know the size of DU that you need? You're taking these air samples as the dust goes by. Do you know the size of DU that you need to trigger 72 counts per minute? They did this in front of the OA Senate. And they said, gee, I thought it was pretty small. They said, well, why didn't you go do your homework? So I was upset like you. We came back, within 2 hours, we recalculated everything. And the size that you need to trigger those counts, a period on the paper, actually Xerox the period on the paper, is 1/100th of that. He never actually said what the size was, but when you go like, you know the size of the dust you need. That's pretty, and so I said, you respond, I give you 2 hours to respond, or you retract that kind of statement. Oh, no, retract. It's like it never happened. And finally, we talked about the friendly fire thing, where the tumors were hidden and ignored. Every time I deal with the agencies here, I'm going to bring up these issues because we have a problem with credibility. Okay? And they say, well, Pang, they actually said, Pang's no scientist, he keeps saying the same thing. I keep saying the same thing because I want to see some answers. By the way, I advise it to the US Congress on the research. Next. Now here's something new. This is something I think Napua, you said might come up. What are we going to do with this information? Well, you can do what we've been doing for pesticides. Bear with me. These are the Nazis and the Imperial Japanese Army. And in the Second World War, they did these horrible experiments, grossly unethical, 12 kinds of experiments on humans. And it is true, they did it on a racial basis, Jews, gypsies, mentally retarded kids. But if you get wrapped up in the racism, you're going to miss the point. After the war was over, these guys were brought to trial. This is Dr. Brandt, leader. He was hung. This is called the doctor's trials. Third of the doctor, Schiller, he was hung because these experiments they did on people were grossly unethical. Okay. Well, how could they have been ethical? You didn't get their informed consent. Furthermore, they were coerced. You don't give me your informed consent, not that they ever tried. You don't get to eat or we're going to kill your mother. So all of this was unethical. These were radiation experiments to see how much you could irradiate a person and bring them back from the dead. And then, of course, they pushed the limit. There were 12 experiments. Here's vivisection by the Japanese army, cutting people open with no anesthesia, just to watch the medical process. When these guys are taken to trial, bear with me, it has some relevance to what you guys are facing. The defense, the Nazi doctors are not stupid. They said, first of all, we were told to do this. That's not a defense. This was in the national interest. That's not a defense. We were fighting a war, not a defense. And for the sake of science, you guys, us, me, are going to learn from Dr. Schiller's malaria experience. I'm a malaria guy. We actually argued whether or not we should use his data. Terrific data, but unethically gotten. So, you hear all the arguments. Did you ever notice that we quickly condemn them because they did it to themselves, or the Jews, or the Hungarians, or the Romanians? All right, so we solved that. We took care of that in the Nuremberg trials, and the Helsinki Accord came after that. And the Helsinki Accord simply codified that you need informed consent. No problem. 4 years later, 1950 to 64, all these experiments were let loose in the US. Not Nazi Germany, not Jews, not Hungarians, on our own people. Who did this? This was called the Cold War experiments. The military did it with university contracts. And they did all kinds of things. Really? I never heard about it. Well, for like 8 years, they released germs over the Bay Area. They released chemicals over 16 metropolitan areas of Canada and the US. They released radiation. Where? Minnesota, probably St. Louis. That's like mass release to the environment. People exposed, nobody informed, no consent. Then they did these one-on-one experiments, psychological tests, give the guy LSD, watch his behavior, brainwash people, try to force kids to stutter. They were called the monster studies. Okay? They did all this experimentation, and it was hushed. And after 30 years, in 1994, the US Congress said, what the heck happened there in these 8 years? And they had a review. And I'm going to give you a copy. I have 40 copies. You got to read this. It's just a copy of this. This is called the Cold War Experimentation, reviewed by the 1994 US Congress. And next, who was in charge then who said, we need this? We need to review what happened 30 years ago so we never do this again, because these guys, the US military and the contracting universities, there were many, did not get this message. Well, President Clinton, here he is with Pohakaloa. Somebody should tell him, when you hear talking about the Hawaiian culture, try to protect us from what you promised in 1994 during your hearings. Who else was there? It was like, he was the guy who called it Fred next. This guy was there. There are 8 of these here. There are like 50 guys, plenty retired or dead. There are 8 survivors. He's one of them, Bernie Sanders. So we wrote to them on behalf of not the DU, but the pesticides. You guys releasing pesticides in massive amounts, drifting all over the place. You promised it would not happen again. Next, I'll give you one final slide. This is the findings of the Cold War hearing. If you read that documentation, first of all, it's like 300 pages. 150 pages are just references. I don't like to read this stuff. This was the most fascinating reading I've ever done. You get to hear all the senators, men of integrity, say, what the hell are you guys doing? You can see the military start to dance around and say, well, you know, they said, that's not what we meant. Just cut that short and just answer the question. Okay. So these are kind of the summary of findings. All of the ethics on humans, it's not racism at all. You cannot do these things to humans without their informed consent. It's based on the Nuremberg Code, okay? These community exposures, downwind, this blowing here, is no different than individual exposures, like, I did this to that person, how cruel. I did this to that community. Same issues, okay? Prior to experimentation, if you say, well, why can't I keep bombing Pohakaloa? You haven't shown harm. Well, that's why I call it an experiment. You don't get to experiment. You don't have to. You can't say you got to show harm, then I'll stop experimenting. An experiment means you don't know the harm. And in fact, they actually clarified in the hearing that after the fact, when you release all those chemicals, and you went and said, well, no harm has been shown. In fact, didn't you release some vaccines that you did everybody the world of good? I made them better. You didn't get informed consent prior to the experiment when you didn't know about this. That's unethical. The military was taking this task for this. They did a vaccine which did a world of good, but they kind of did it in the Nepalese army where they didn't really have choice. National security and science is never an argument against the rights of the individuals, let alone, I mean, if you want to say against Hawaiian individuals, too, it's any individual, okay? Here's something interesting, you should read it. Here's all the case histories of people struggling with this during those years of Cold War experimentation. Do not expect any of the existing agencies, the courts, the legislatures, the president even, to help you. You got to go outside. Don't even expect Northwestern Law School to help you, or NYU Law School. These people said, I tried to call this, I tried to call this, nobody would help me because God knows why. Then the agency said, you know, we had enough of this hanky-panky 30 years ago. It's never going to happen again. Call the agencies. So they called the 16 federal agencies, the EPA, USDA, FDA, all these guys, and they said, you will abide by the common rule, the common federal rule. That means you will abide by ethics to protect the individual, informed consent, no coercion, freedom to join at any time, freedom to quit at any time. If you cannot protect her, let's say all of us say, we don't mind Pohakaloa fumes. If she says no, the answer is no, because you can't protect her. Simple as that. They all agree. And now we have a little backsliding. The EPA starts to backslide. And then no coercion, no experimentation, and also your Pohakaloa thing, in the name of national security or whatever, that's not an experiment on humans. These guys ruled on that too. It doesn't matter what your intent was. You're trying to kill insects that eat plants. Humans are exposed to the chemicals. That's a human experiment. That part is the human. Don't try to say my intent was something. You can put up chemicals in the air to increase communication. The chemicals are questionable, human experimentation. Hit one more thing. And then we have our little problem. I checked to see if the NRC was one of the 16 agencies. Nope. Now, do you think they kind of said, wow, you didn't ask us? I think they were asked. And they said, no, we refuse. So you do not obey ethics of the individual or the community. So when the NRC ever comes, Amy Schneider, you ask her, I don't care about your degrees anymore. Do you respect the common rule? Did you sign it? And they're going to say, well, I hope so. The answer is no. I think that's it. Try one more. Yes. So that's it. These are some things to think about. There's 40 copies. Try to read this. It's the most interesting thing I've ever read in 10 years about integrity and cut to the chase and no double talk and all this kind of stuff. You can find this online.
Dr. Pang, what does NRC stand for?
Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. That's the guys who... Jim.
So, thank you, Dr. Payne. What I'd like to do is give everybody everybody a 3-minute break to stand up, go to the restroom if you want to, while we collect all of the cards. And then we will have a little questions and answers. Don't go away, this is going to be exciting. And we're going to try and be out of here or end by 7 o'clock. You see, we have some very good questions that I'd like to make sure we get to everyone's questions. Okay, and most of the questions really relate to the depleted uranium issue and Dr. Peng. So I'm just going to start, and at the end of this period, I'll ask again if everyone has heard their questions, because there are a couple of questions that are very similar. So it may not be your exact question, but it may be another question that asks for the same information. Okay. Okay. So Dr. Peng, what kind of DU monitoring, including community process, would have to take place in order for the results to be trusted by the activist community?
Okay, so generally, we're talking about studies. What kind of monitoring is a study? Generally, it can be phased in. First, it will be simply picking up the Geiger counters again. You have the Geiger counters, they're valid. It will tell you alpha particles are being emitted, and we will simply compare the Pohakaloa just outside the gates to someplace with the same elevation, because cosmic rays. You guys can try Pohakaloa or Mauna Kea. And we will just do a quick and dirty comparison to see if there's more alpha emissions in Pohakaloa. Already, the military and the State Department said, well, that's not, you got to use the latest $50,000 equipment, you got to identify what. I said, don't relax. When we did smoking causing cancer, what were the first studies? Did we even know the chemicals that cause cancer? What kind of cancer? We said the guys who smoke get sick more than the guys who don't. So it's a series of studies, and the first one's kind of simple and straightforward.
Can I ask Ruth that same question? Do you have a different response? What kind of monitoring, including community practice, would have to take place in order for you to feel, for you to trust the results?
I think definitely one would be like an independent researcher. Like you can't have the military conducting their own studies to ensure that we're safe. Like we need qualified, trustworthy, independent researchers to help the community do their part, but then just having trustworthy data, and then taking the considerations and the recommendations of Dr. Peng and Doug, I think is the other one, and Mike Reimer. Like there are people who have been talking and making these suggestions, and their suggestions are being ignored, they're being sidelined. So it's like, I feel like for me, it's just like, just listen to what these people are saying, make slow changes. If you can make it fast, don't wait. Like, listen to all these recommendations by these, what we consider experts, and let's just start doing it. Like, we don't need to recreate anything. If they have suggestions, then let's do it. And let's also get the independent researchers out there. You can't ask them, the military, oh, can you tell me if this is harmful for us? It's like, well, what do you expect? Of course they're going to tell you no.
Okay, good. Another question, and I'll address this to Dr. Peng. Are military staff and PTA employees at risk from the DU?
Yeah, more so than people farther away.
Yep.
So the closer you are, the more times you're exposed.
Okay. Is it an OSHA concern for civilians and personnel that work at PTA, possibly creating an unsafe working environment?
It could be, but we do have to do some monitoring to say there's exposure, and then we're going to get a pissing contest. Well, yeah, there's excess, but is it harmful? Once again, I go to experimentation. If you don't know if it's harmful or not, you're in an experiment. I don't see informed consent.
Maybe Ruth's suggestion about third-party monitoring might respond to that concern. Is there an increased risk of a fire if there's a fire up on Pohakaloa?
Oh, Technically, not from DU, just from plain old bombing, as far, because to ignite a DU, to make it really burn, really gotta be hot, I think 3,000 degrees. I mean, it's really gotta be hot or rapid penetration velocity.
So a range fire is.
Correct, a range fire doesn't blow up the DU.
I don't know much range up there,
But bombing
but.
does,
Bombing is.
in on steel.
Okay. Okay, the other question was, would planting grass over DU areas keep the dust down?
Yes, anything to keep the dust down. Oh, by the way, initially some guys said, let's go up to Pohakaloa, and when the wind's blowing from the area, we'll monitor that. The wind's blowing this way, we'll compare that. I think you can forget about that. The winds have been moving this stuff so much that this side's probably the same as that side. So your control site has to be either Mauna Kea, same elevation, or Pohakaloa.
Does the DU permit or license for radioactive material disposed of in the state require prior approval by 2/3 vote in each house? I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that. Yes, Dr. DU?
The only regulatory agency for depleted uranium is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and they currently permitted the Army for possession of the depleted uranium. And I pursued charges for their possession without a license for several decades. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission found the Army guilty, but waived all penalties, saying that they believe they're trying to do the right thing. But if we look at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's requirements currently in place, the Army can pretty much continue bombing the areas where potentially depleted uranium is located. And bombing can ignite it, unlike range fires. And they have a sampling. The Nuclear Regulatory kind of misrepresented. They said it was at the boundary of the impact area, the practice area, but in fact it's at the boundary of Pohakaloa. So it's many miles away. It's one sampling or a sediment sample. So they're pretty much trying to set it out where it won't be found. So it's pretty clear the direction the Nuclear Regulatory is going.
Okay. Are the winds strong enough to carry the depleted uranium dust off-site?
Absolutely. I mean, it depends how big the piece is, but a piece, that little piece I showed you that was sending the thing off, that's going to be emitting for such a long time. When we blew up our own Camp Falcon, remember the plume went from the Middle East to England in 9 weeks or something like this. Well, you can circumvent the globe.
Okay. Has the military done required, under the lease, land cleanup assessment for value tier 2 report? I'm just reading because I don't understand what that means. Do you know what that means?
Doug Rocky is, like, he kind of wrote the rules.
Okay.
He's the guy who's real sick now. He was a physicist. He will tell you absolutely not. What starts off with cleanup, starts off with monitoring, so you know how much, where you got to clean up. We haven't even done monitoring yet, so how would I know the adequacy of a cleanup? Doug is furious about this.
Yes.
We're discussing a lease, is this a state lease to the Army?
Apparently, that's what they're talking about.
As we saw in the earlier video, there was no annexation. The state is unlawful. So their lease to the Army is unlawful. So everything they're doing up there right now isn't work right. There's no easy way to say it. And I feel sorry for the individuals that need to face that reality today, because they're innocent bystanders and victims of circumstance. I hope we can work together to resolve the situation peacefully and in a calm manner and move forward with a smooth transition. Because we don't want to disrupt the people's lives in Hawaii any more than necessary. But we all know that it has to be done.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting, the DU weaponry worldwide was really considered by many other countries as weapon of mass destruction. It goes beyond the combatants into the legacy of the civilians afterwards. Okay, with that in mind, shall we stop using it? Okay, the Army said we're going to stop using it. The NRC took away the license. But yet, if we all agree to stop using it, you're still generating the oxide dust by bombing it with conventional. I mean, it doesn't matter if the DU hits the conventional or conventional hits the DU, you made it. This is part of the legacy. So, everybody's stuck with this, but can we not make more of a mess than we already have?
So here's a follow-up to, I think, what Isaac was saying is, some would see the deoccupation of Pohakaloa training area as a fringe issue or Hawaiians only issue. Do you speak to that?
Sure, I'm not sure what is meant by a fringe issue. A depleted uranium is not a racist type of chemical. It's not going to attack only Hawaiians.
Well, I'm sure whoever's asking this question is very serious, and I think it's about, you know, Pohakaloa. Some people think that it's a Hawaiian issue. Is it a Hawaiian issue or community?
Hawaiians care very deeply about it because it affects us. And people we love, people that train at Pohakaloa, as well as our tourist industry. And a lot of people depend on employment from the tourism industry, so I'm glad that it hasn't really gotten out to the point where it's chasing the tourists away from visiting Hawaii, because a lot of people could be economically affected by that. So it affects everybody, not just Hawaiians. But Hawaiians are, I guess, taking the first step in trying to address that in cooperation with some of our non-Hawaiian friends.
I just want to acknowledge that it is approaching 7, and that was going to be the end of our meeting, but I do have more questions. And I would suggest if you have to leave, thank you for coming. And the rest of us who want to stay and listen to the questions and answers, we'll just continue. Is that all right? Yeah, okay, thank you. Ruth, I'll ask you this. What kind of connection do you see between Mauna Kea and Pohakaloa?
There's so many, you know, and it's, you know, this is another one where it's not a Hawaiian issue. I mean, if you look in this room, we have kupuna who have been fighting for decades, but it's not, I feel like one of the similarities is that Pohakaloa and Mauna Kea are trying to treat Native Hawaiians as against this, as against that, as against science, culture versus this, culture versus that. Like, what it's really about when we're looking, for me, when I look at Mauna Kea and Pohakaloa, it's about remembering, it's about honoring, and it's about protecting our sacred places and acknowledging our relationship to all that gives us life. The mountains, the watersheds, the forests, the ancestors, the burials, our wahikupuna that are still present and that are still there. And for me, it's, I think Pohakaloa, I don't think I know Pohakaloa will again bring a great awakening to the people of not only Hawaii, but of the world in uniting us into bringing right to the wrongs that are being done. So if anything, I mean, it's just pono will prevail, and that's what we see, is we see pono unfolding right now, even through these discussions of rights being made, the truth being told, and that's about it, it's just the truth.
Hey, can I say something?
Yeah.
You know, what was kind of interesting we discovered on the individual ethics of experimentation. So sometimes I say, okay, I'm going to do this right. And then I say, Paka, would you like to come into my cancer chemotherapy trial? You have cancer. He has the right to say, try it on somebody else first, not in my backyard. So actually, technically, you could say, I love this. Oh, we're going to get DU to protect our military or something, but not in our backyard. And it starts with your guy's backyard. You go 500 miles outgoing to Washington, D.C., generate all the foods you want. I actually love it. We need this, but not in our backyard. You have the right to say that. And a lot of times, that's what people say. Try it on the other guy first. Okay?
So, Dr. Pang,
Yeah.
are you implying that the U.S. Army is experimenting on Native Hawaiians the same way that Nazis experimented on Jews?
Actually, I was asked that about chemicals. And in the past, people who implied that had to apologize. My group says, I'm not calling them Nazis. I'm saying there's a vein of principle here where, and it's experimenting on humans, whether they be Hawaiian or not. In some of those Cold War experiments, some were military on military. Some were military on military. Commanders would have them practice with a gas mask and said, now you're going to get pepper spray. But they switched it, the mustard gas. Guys died and were affected. I don't care who it is, military on military, military on Hawaiians, military on anybody. There are some principles that cannot be violated. So it happens the Nazis really violated them. I'm not saying they're Nazis, but I'm saying these principles will track it for you.
Okay, can the federal government just ignore the state of Hawaii Constitution, Article 11, thank you, Section 8, giving away who asked the question, states, no nuclear fission power plant shall be constructed or radioactive material disposed of in the state of Hawaii without the prior approval by 2/3 vote in each houses of the legislature.
So rewording the question is, how can they violate the state of Hawaii Constitution? And they're doing that too, and I haven't even heard that argument that that's being an approach to be taken against this fiasco called the NRC license.
Yes.
Under the Army regulations, during times of peace, local government laws supersede military laws, so you cannot ignore it. And the county council also passed a resolution for the military to clean up the DU, stop bombing area and clean it up, and they also ignore that. So the Army is ignoring their own regulations. Unless there's someone to enforce that regulation, the Army regulations, that's where we need to find answers. Why is the Army ignoring their own regulations?
Okay. So this is sort of a long preamble to the question. The question is, how do you propose to correct this ongoing and unlawful corporate takeover? And this is in relation to the U.S. Code, Article 28, Section 3002, Federal Corporation, 1871 creation of District of Columbia, being that USA defines the United States as a federal corporation and a people, U.S. citizens are fraudulently contracted as boards of the state corporation. USA Inc. is probably not lawful here or even in America. It's not
Provably, not probably.
Oh, provably, thank you. Not lawful here or even in America. It's not a de jure government, it's a corporation as military servicemen who swore an oath to serve and protect the people's unalienable constitutional rights. So how do you propose to correct that?
The question is for the military people here.
Well, you know, I'm.
Well, they're not allowed to, you can't ask
Well,
them.
no, it's not so much that we're not
Presenter
allowed
that
to.
question, never respond to that.
Yeah.
I understand the position of the military personnel here. They're gonna say that about it. They cannot really respond to that. It's their superiors that we need to seek answers from. But,
Well, Paka, it's a personal oath
yeah.
to serve and protect people's unalienable right. To answer your question, the reason why the military can avoid the state of Hawaii's laws is because the state of Hawaii is a lower division of the corporation. And it's probably not a de jure government, so they're actually enforcing the statutes of the corporation. And if you look at any law through the lens of natural law, which is the basis of America and Hawaiian Kingdom, 1776, and Hawaiian Kingdom 1839. It's all God's law. But it has been usurped as of 1871, officially became a federal corporation. You can look it up on the internet today. So you don't have a de jure government, and that's why it operates as a corporation, because that's what it is. So what are you going to do? Treason has occurred for a long time.
Yeah, so the issue can only be addressed at the international level, and some people are working in that area right now. So I wish them success, because we need to find some kind of relief for the situation we've been experiencing for multiple generations. What's the question?
No, I just had something to say. I just wanted to remind folks that, this is a space of kupu aloha. This is a space for listening. Last month we listened to the military, and they also wanted to hear what we, I'll say we or us, had to say this time. And so they're here, I know they're in their uniform, so obviously they're representing the military, but they're also coming here as part of the community. And so, maybe later I can give them that question, they can get back to Eugene or something like that, but this is a talk about PTA from people who are community activists.
Yeah.
So that we can listen and learn.
The situation we have is the people, like the commander of PTA, let's compare it to like a truck. They're hired to drive the truck, they don't own the truck. So we need to talk to the people that own the truck. I feel sorry for them here, they gotta fix the community, they just uncomfortable.
I'm not attacking them,
But I didn't use that word. I'm just reminding people that this is a space for
Well,
Thank
the
you.
real point of my question is that all of us in this room, whether you're uniformed or not, we were told that this was our parents. And then we realized that it's not. And so how do we lawfully untangle the most fundamental issue is that it's not a de jure government. And I asked that of the guys wearing uniform, obviously, but that's a question every man and woman is supposed to ask themselves. And I'm so inspired by Ruth because she said, I'm not afraid. And that is the key. All we have to do is stay in honor, and Keakua will handle the rest. But if we surrender our unalienable right, we're not in honor, and then we suffer the consequences of those inactions. That's all. I'm not expecting a silver bullet. The key is to stay in honor.
Yes.
That's all.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. If you look at the Nuremberg trials, it was called the doctors' trials, okay? The doctors, 7 were hung, 7 life imprisonment, and 7 were excused. And the guys who got hung, they said, well, I was just following the orders. And in fact, I got medals for it. Were they excused? No. They said, there's something fundamental that you should have known. Personally, I think these guys got railroaded, that they got hung because you cannot make a law that you did wrong and then apply it retroactively. So we're going to hang you for what you did 3 years ago. But this following orders was patriotic, I even got medals, war situation, that did not stand. It was wrong to say we got these laws and we're going to hang you for the law we made now. But we got laws now. The principle of the law says somebody causing unethical things to go on. Maybe we won't hang you, but the same idea. You can't just say, oh, that's following orders. Because that did not stand in Nuremberg.
Okay. So there is another question that's very similar that probably we're not going to answer tonight, but I do want to read it to honor the person who wrote it. It says, when will the U.S. military admit that training for expeditionary, I can't say these words, expeditionary missions is immoral and indefensible because foreign interventions and invasion do not constitute national defense. And I think that's the same issue.
I think it's pretty clear that we've seen a pattern where the United States even fabricates excuses to go attack other countries so that they can install governments that are pliable to their desires so they can access the resources and things in these other countries. But I don't think anybody's blind to that fact. But we're going back to that previous discussion. There was a soldier, I forget what his name was, Wakita or something, and I believe he was court-martialed for, yeah, he was court-martialed for refusing to engage in military activity because it was unethical. And I believe there's something in the military law where it's their duty to do that. But he was court-martialed, so some guys are pretty much under or coerced to do something they might not want to do. So we kind of look at all of the military personnel as evil. Sometimes they coerce to do things that they got to do, and I feel sorry for them being in that situation. But the reality of the world we live in, so all we can do is try to work together and resolve the situation we're in. And I believe that we can get to the right place one day. But unfortunately, it's not the government that represents the people or controls the military, but corporations, the military industrial complex, the manufacture of weapons, the supply of military support in foreign lands, promote destruction of foreign countries so that American businesses can profit off the cleanup and rebuilding of these places. Well, everything revolves around money, so unfortunately the American people have lost control of their government to the corporations out there that the only bottom line is they only concur. They want to see the money being made. And I don't know how American people can take their government back, but I encourage the American people to do whatever you can. So I was never involved in United States type politics until a few years. I met this gentleman by the name of Dennis Kucinich. He was a congressman, and he came to Hawaii lobbying for support. He was running for president of the United States. So I interviewed him on the island of Maui, where I was a resident at that time. And I shared with him about the Hawaii situation and asked if he was elected president, what would he do? And he said he would leave that decision to the people of Hawaii. He understands that it's wrong, and the people of Hawaii, being the injured party, are the ones that should propose a resolution. And he had a desire to create a cabinet-level peace department. And when I heard that, I had such a great admiration for the man. I wasn't really involved in the Democratic Party or anything like that, but people got to know me and stuff like that, so they elected me to be a delegate for him. And we went up to Boston, the Democratic National Convention, and unfortunately, Dennis wasn't as popular as John Kerry at that time. So it looked like the Democrats were going to elect him or give him the majority vote. So Dennis asked his delegates if we would try to not create the appearance of a division in the party and throw our support behind John Kerry. And I told him, Dennis, John Kerry is not Dennis Kucinich. I was elected to come here as a delegate for you. John Kerry's politics are not equal to yours, so I cannot do that. But I think if he was elected president, we wouldn't be in the situation we are now here in Hawaii, and the United States wouldn't have so many international enemies as they do now. We wouldn't have as many countries looking at the bullseye that's been stuck on the back of Hawaii by Pacific Command being located here. So the United States has a lot of enemies around the world, and because one of their most strategic military institutions, Pacific Command, is located here, a lot of the United States enemies probably have warheads aimed at Hawaii, and that's really scary for me. I think if anybody starts a nuclear war on the planet, that's going to be the end of the planet. Hopefully, world leaders will come to their senses and get rid of all these weapons that have an opportunity to, or the potential to destroy the planet. So I think the stockpiles that have been built up so far, I think we can destroy the planet like 10 times over. So how did the world get this mad to where we allowed munitions that can destroy our planet many times over? How did we let it get to this point? So we need to come together as human beings and get back to living like human beings and stop being like this. Your mother never teach you manners or what?
I have two more questions, so let's just get to these. Mahalo for that. For Dr. Pang, what are the other dangers from the debris of military training remaining in the impact area besides depleted uranium?
Okay, there's some of the heavy metals that persist a long time. Doug Rocky always warned us about that. Then there's the short-term stuff that kind of dissipates, all the benzenes and chemicals, but that kind of gets depleted or degrades kind of quickly. So mostly it's the heavy metals.
And then the last question, well, one rhetorical question. If we all agree that depleted uranium is deadly, why don't you clean it up? But this is to Dr. Pang. Why did the NRC recently determine that only soil testing was necessary? You said air monitoring must be done.
Yeah, I disagree with their position. So does Mike Reimer. He's a retired geologist professor. So we asked for the credentials of the NRC. They refused to give them to us. Most agencies tell you your credentials. It's not a contest to see who has the most credentials. I just want to know what. These were the guys who told us NRC didn't say this. They sat there calmly while General Lee told us heavier than air, don't worry about the fumes. The NRC let that statement be made. So they either deliberately know or they don't have the qualifications to stop that thing and say, don't say these wrong things. So I think, I question their qualifications.
You know, it's like the military has a policy, don't ask, don't tell. This is a situation, don't look, don't find. They don't want to find it, and that's why they have the type of monitoring. It's a purposeful thing. It's clearly a purposeful thing. They don't want to find it. The depleted uranium that is out there now can never be cleaned up. So, the oxides are scattered probably over all the entire island. It'll never be able to be cleaned up. And they just want to keep bombing and practicing nuclear. And they view the residents of this island and probably all of Hawaii as disposable. Or we don't mean anything to it. We're disposable.
Do you realize what, if we were allowed to look, and we say, hey, look at that contamination. And we don't even say, we know cleanup is so hard, so we just want to recognize the bad problem. Do you have any idea what the world, the Balkans, how contaminated they are, the Mideast? We're going to say, hey, you guys in Hawaii, you're lucky. Thanks for pointing this out. Now, who's going to even approach to fix some of the problems in the Mideast and the Balkans? Who was letting this, UK and the US? It's kind of like opening the Pandora's box. But if you don't open it, you're going to keep messing it up.
So I'm going to ask Ruth to close with your thoughts.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. I don't know. I'm just gonna end it where I started. And mahalo to this aina, to Hilo, to the rains that make this aina so rich, and to the deep soils that have fed many generations of Kanaka and newcomers that have made this their home. Deepest thanks to all again. I can never say this enough. All of the kupuna in this room, Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians, who have been standing and who don't ask to be recognized, who don't brag about all the good work that they've done, even though I honor that and I lift that up right now. And I thank you. There's so many people in this room who I know and who I don't know. And I thank you folks for putting this together. And as the next generation that's coming through, the biggest thing that I can tell you now is that we're not going anywhere. we're gonna carry this work on, and folks don't need to worry because we're rising and we're ready. We're ready to take this on, we're ready to stand by your side, and we're gonna do it in a good way. You don't need to be afraid of us. We're non-violent, we're full of love, and that's what fuels our fire to do right by Pohakaloa, by Mauna Kea, by all of our sacred places that give us life.
We will not stop.
And we are really nice people. Really.
So that, mahalo, that was our pule.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to add that I hope everyone has a safe trip home, safe drive home. Mahalo for being here and being a great audience and participant, great questions. And to our panel, especially Dr. Pang. But we're really happy that you got here. And for Isaac Hart for bringing your information and for sharing so much insight about how the military operates and your own experience. And for Ruth, who has, yes, so eloquent and represents this next generation rising in such a very beautiful way. So with love.
Hope for the future.
How about you?